Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to the Managing Family Life Online as You Stay at Home series. Today we're going to be covering Module 6, Helping Kids Stay Safe While Gaming Online. My name is Lynette Owens. I'm the founder and global director for Trend Micro's Internet Safety for Kids and Families program, who is hosting this series for a period of 10 weeks this spring. And I'm joined today by a special guest, Mayra Fuentes, who is one of our senior researchers at Trend Micro. Hi, Mayra.
Hi.
So today we're going to be talking about something that has been, I think, a part of a kid's life for as long as we can remember. I myself had an Atari, then later ColecoVision, Nintendo. I played all those games. I remember what it was like to waste the time. And it's really no different today, with the exception of the games themselves. The games themselves have become far more rich, complex, and they have a social element now that Space Invaders never did. That I think a lot of us need to be very mindful of. And the existence of these games and the playing environment that kids are in when they're potentially connecting with people they don't know and spending money in ways that we never did is something we all have to be very, very careful of. So I think a couple of interesting statistics about gaming since COVID-19 happened. You know, the first is that 75% mobile game downloads actually grew by 75% in the first quarter of this year, and that was largely precipitated by the fact that a lot of us were being forced to stay at home. Kids also were no longer in schools, and a lot of that time now was transferred over to screens, and a lot of that, in particular, gaming. Also in the same period of time, the amount of time we were spending on games increased by 47% in that same 3-month period. So I think if anything, kids were gaming a lot more than they ever were, as were adults. So I think the risk here is that if kids are not given the right kind of guidance, they could be at risk, different kinds of risk, which we'll talk about today. So as part of Trend Micro's Internet Safety for Kids and Families program, we do cover quite a range of topics, and I had said previously, this is the 6th in a series of 10, although we'll be continuing on past our spring sessions. And it is important to remember that in all of our messaging, we do believe that kids' ability to master using the internet is an important skill, but we want to make sure that while they're there, they're safe, they're kind, and they're savvy. All right. So this might be, if gaming is going on in your house, might be some of the conversations that are happening. You know, discussions about how much longer, discussions about who gets a turn with the console or the iPad, and finally, not understanding the person whom they may be playing with. This phrase, rage quit, very common among gamers. It's when someone, out of anger and frustration, just leaves the game. So I hear this one in my house a lot. I want to start with a poll here and ask the audience to answer. What worries you most about your kids and gaming online? So if you go ahead and select a poll and go ahead and pick one of those answers. And also, if at any point during the session you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen to post questions. We'll get to them at the end of today's session, but feel free to put questions in there at any time. So I think we have to go ahead and launch this poll. Right. What worries you most about your kids and gaming online? Amount of time, who they're playing with, scams, or the amount of money they might be spending on them? content issues of language. And I'm sorry, actually, the screen is not matching the poll itself. So I will just speak to the answers. So how much time, who they're playing with, how much money, the language, and or you're not too concerned. Okay, we're going to end it here. So it looks like most of you are worried about the time they're spending on it and the people they might be engaging with. And I think that's pretty, that's a pretty common towards a lot of parents' concerns as well. And I think, again, depending on the age of your kids, you know, some of the inappropriate language could also be a factor. So that looked like that was a third area of concern. So one thing about the game, the time spent, we'll talk about in a little bit, and we'll reflect on last week's session where we spoke about screen time and some great tips on how you can manage people's screen time in your house, your children's screen time. So here's a snapshot of some of the most popular games based on worldwide usage and downloads. And obviously the world of games is far more than we could ever fit on one screen. But our hope later on in this session is to spend a little bit of time talking about some of these and answering questions you might have or concerns you might have. But despite, you know, what games you decide your kids are allowed to play, I think, you know, without going through great detail here, we have shared this set of rules, this rubric that you can use each and every time you're saying yes to something, a new game, a new device, and whatever it is. And it's the same 5 questions you should answer, and that is, you know, what is okay for them, what's age appropriate. And we actually recommend, it's in our tip sheet, which we'll talk about in a bit, use the resources already out there. The ESRB is a US-based ratings bureau. PEGI, which is the Pan-European Gaming information, and that's age ratings that used in a lot of countries in Europe. Zero is the one which is used in Japan and some other countries in the Asia Pacific region. But use these resources to decide, is this game actually okay from an age perspective? And is it educational or beneficial? You know, maybe that's something that's important to you as a family. So one great resource that we like to recommend is from Common Sense Media. You can look up lots of apps and games, and they give a very objective review. There are other great resources to give you that insight. When can they play it? Last week, when we had Dr. Rich on, we talked about, rather than limiting the amount of time your kid could play and saying it can only be an hour, it can only be 2 hours, a better exercise might be to sit down every day and look at their day as a cup of 24 hours, and to talk them through and give them some responsibility to say, well, some of that time I need sleep, some of that time I need to eat and have a family meal or meals, some of that time I'll be doing school work, family time, and then maybe there's time left over to play games. And that, in fact, would be a better way of deciding when and how, and also how long. The thing about some of these games we'll talk about today, though, to be very, very mindful of those that have end times and those that go on and on and really don't have any kind of end times. If they're not timed games and your child is not necessarily great at self-monitoring their usage, you might want to consider games that do have a set end time. This could be a game that lasts 10 minutes or you know, a game that ends when a certain objective is reached versus others that don't. I think where is just make sure it's quiet for you if you're trying to do other things at home and the game is noisy, but also safe for them, in a place where you can check in on them if you need to. And finally, with whom. As we mentioned earlier, games today have, most of them actually have a social element, and therefore it gives them access to engaging with others, some of whom they do know and some of whom they don't. So make sure you're asking yourself if you're okay with the social elements of the game. Can they chat? Is the chat pre-scripted? Is that the only way that they can communicate, is through pre-scripted text? Is it using the microphone or not? So make sure you're comfortable with that. And one of the best ways to get comfortable is to actually play the game yourself. If you really don't know, try it with them. You don't need to become an avid gamer. Just go ahead and sit down and try a game or two. Kids usually enjoy trying to teach you what it is they love, but that's one way you can decide. I think finally, on top of this, when you're deciding you're okay now with a specific game, two areas to be mindful of are making sure you protect your privacy, your child's privacy, and their security. And, that's everything from making sure the passwords are strong, turning on multi-factor authentication if that console or that game allows for it. I would test the age verification process. Some games don't ask you for a birth date. Some mobile games do. They want you to verify in some other way by signing in with a second app like Google or Facebook. So consider whether or not you want to connect those apps or not. I think the more you do, the more you open yourself up to potential risk if one of those is compromised. And finally, these games may require access to microphones, cameras. I don't know that any of them really need to know your location. Pokemon Go would, but most of these don't. And finally, contact lists. If it's really not needed, I would decline those for sure. And use security software in any devices you're using to play these games. The second thing is to know what the real cost of the game is. So a lot of these games are free or have free versions. And the problem is that no business running a game is doing this for free. So there is some other way that they're going to try to make money from you. So a lot of free apps obviously have in-app purchasing. If you can turn that off and you don't need it, you don't need your kids racking up costs to your credit card to that iTunes or Google Play Store, turn off the in-app purchasing capability. Or if you do want to allow them to purchase things, consider using a gift card to the iTunes gift store, Microsoft Xbox, or the Google Play Store instead of your credit card. There are two benefits to this. One, you don't expose their contact to your credit card. And the other is the child learns to budget. They know I have $20, I have $50 from this gift card, and I will be more careful as I spend that money and it ticks down. I'd like to ask Mayra to comment here on an area that has become increasingly of concern, and this is where real costs come into play. And it's this idea of loot boxes. So loot boxes are generic terms for the ability to buy something in the game that helps you perform better or look cool or, do something that you couldn't otherwise. But the problem is you don't know what's inside this little mystery box or bag or kit. You're paying real money and you're giving a chance that inside the box or the bag is something you want. So a lot of people think of this as gambling, taking chances with real money. Countries like Belgium have banned loot boxes. There's legislation going on in some countries to also ban them. And some games like Call of Duty actually decided on their own they would not have any loot boxes in their games. So Mayra, if you could comment a little bit on the other dangers around loot boxes. Have you seen any as a researcher on the risks of these?
Mostly it's just the overspending, not having any control of how much you're spending as a child. And sometimes some of these items that you're getting are not worth the price. So loots are not that big of criminals are not looking to compromise them as often though.
Okay, yeah. And technically these are not illegal. Loot boxes are not necessarily illegal, but your kid might get caught up in spending.
And the overspending. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and so while we're on the topic, I think this other really big issue that, beyond concerns of too much time on the games or spending money is just understanding that there is an underbelly to the gaming industry. And I think the research that you did, Mayra, and the paper that you published last year, I think were very, very fascinating. I, as a mother of two, one of whom likes to game, was not even aware of some of these things. And I think as our kids get older, we should be aware of these things. So we were talking beforehand about the rise of, part of this is because of the rise of esports as an industry. What are you seeing in terms of the places where esports are sort of encroaching in our lives?
Oh, right now it's really popular because of the COVID lockdown in many areas. And before COVID started, places like Texas was, they built in Arlington, Texas, 100,000 square foot arena. There's a huge area in China that they're building an arena that's going to have like hotels and it's hospitals, kind of like a theme park. You have in Las Vegas, there's an arena being built too. And places like Philadelphia is investing in one that's going to be $50 million. So esports is not going to go away. It's just going to increase more. And I think some of the threats are also going to increase because there's going to be more people out there spending money and putting their information out there on the internet.
Yeah, what size of the industry is this? Has it been measured at? I think it's in the
It's
billion.
$1 billion industry.
Yeah, that's not small. And we also talked about the fact that universities are starting to host these programs in their schools and encourage them among students. So at a young age, you're training to become a professional esporter.
Gamer.
I don't know what the right name for that is.
Gamer. It would be a professional gamer.
Yeah.
Some are sponsored. They get like a regular salary, a yearly salary. Some are based on just the prizes. So you can actually make a decent living in some areas.
Yeah, I can imagine. I haven't told my son yet that this is a thing, by the way.
Yeah, you can get
So,
scholarships.
yeah,
So it's kind of
well,
good.
that would be good. Yeah. You know, and in your paper, you predicted some potential risks coming. And I want to focus on three of them in particular. The first was, I think, around the cheats, that you could spend real money and get information, inside information on how to win whatever game it is you're trying to win. So can you talk a little bit about what some of these cheat and hacking services are?
Yes, the common ones are aimbots and wall hacks. So aimbots are just a program to make you aim better so you could beat the bad guys. And wall hacks are ways to make it kind of invisible, or the wall is invisible for you so you could see through it and see your enemy. And a lot of children know how to find these on the internet. You can just type in want to purchase an aimbot, or how do I purchase one? Where do I find one? You'll find plenty of places that look like legit stores. Some are very professionally made, the websites. Right now, aimbots and wall hacks are illegal in most of the gaming platforms. So if a child downloads this and they are caught, they could be banned for life. Sometimes they're just banned temporarily for a few weeks. And prices can go as low as $5 up to $1,500 is what I've seen so far. And aimbots and wall hacks kind of work like antivirus when it comes to the developer. So the developer has an anti-cheat system. And if it detects the aimbot, it would automatically like ban the user. And it's the part I would say it's like a antivirus is because if it hasn't been detected before, then the software can just keep running until someone either reports it or the system eventually figures out that there's something wrong in the software. This must be illegal, and then it bans it.
Okay, and I think, and it sounds also like some of these websites also would they potentially have malware on that just by luring you there, as if you're going to get a hack?
Both. You can go to the website. You may accidentally download something, or the actual aimbot may have malware already installed to usually steal your credentials or your banking information.
Okay, so this is one area I think you were predicting that would start to grow how big of a risk is this now? Or is it one of greatest concern, or is it a little bit lower on the list versus others?
I would say it's greatest concern because it's easy to find. You can hand a computer to a child, maybe around 10. They will be able to find at least one website where it says you can buy one. They may not know how to figure out how to do the purchase, but they can easily find how to cheat.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the information is
Yeah.
pretty easy to find.
Okay, that's good to know. And I think a second area that you also had written about was just any of our personally identifiable information, otherwise known as PII, could be at risk. Could be at risk
Yeah.
to cyber criminals getting a hold of it. So, can you talk a little bit more about how, if I'm playing a game, how would I put myself at risk of this?
Well, one of the ways is the gaming developer website. So a lot of these websites are hacked, and we know that data breaches occur often in many areas, not just in gaming. So if your personal information's been hacked, then it's just you might receive phishing emails to the accounts that you have registered the games in, and try to get like ransomware installed in your computer. Also, if you use the same passwords, because still 75% of the people reuse their passwords. So that password could be used for your gaming account, and the hacker could, the cyber criminal could get your information, make purchases, sell skins and other gaming items to others. They could sell your account online. So what you're seeing right here is on the right is a special rank of a global elite, and that goes for $99. But there's some sites that sell like skins that you could buy up to $1,000, and sometimes it's just they stole it from someone else.
Wow, pretty crafty. I don't, yeah. I could see a lot of boys my son's age sort of being, you know, become victims of these potentially for sure. And given the number of hours they spend on some of these games as well. Okay, and then the third, I think the third of several other predictions you had made was around targeted malware. I guess looks like it's mostly against high profile gamers, and I know among young kids they're very, very interested in watching other people game through services like Twitch and and so on. So talk to us a little bit about what this might look like and how even our own kids might become at risk of this.
So this would usually come through a phishing email, and it would look like maybe a special pricing for a add-in to the game. It could be usually something to entice the child or the person to click on it about the game. So if it's too good to be true, you shouldn't click on those type of things, and not try to buy objects or items that are not from the website itself, the actual gaming website.
Okay, and so, well, it's interesting because a lot of younger people don't do email all that much, but I assume you could still receive these kinds of offers or messages and things like, phishing through text or
Through text, chat
yeah,
rooms, through chat.
okay, and maybe even on hidden within ads that you might click on or tap on, potentially. So that's really good to know. And so what is your advice? I mean, with these three, I know you made some other predictions as well, and I highly, highly encourage people to read the paper that the research that Mayra and I think one other trender, was it Fernando Merces,
Yes,
worked on with you. Highly recommend people to read that to understand how some of this actually might pertain to just our kids, even if it's not against the gaming companies. Our kids, because they're there, could get swept up in this. So for these three particular risks, what is your advice to parents with regard to hacks or
I would have two. If you do have the budget, have a gaming computer just for that. That way, if you do get a virus or a ransomware, your personal information is not going to be out there. And the other one is the password reuse. That's the biggest one, because right now you can go to certain websites and just type in the person's email address, and you'll know that that password has been reused. And you can even find websites for free that will give you the actual password. You can just keep looking for other accounts that person may have.
Okay, yeah, and in addition to using security software in any device that you're connecting to the internet, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. I think, so, we covered quite a number of things, and I think, again, I'll show you later on, but I recommend parents that as you're considering games for your kids, going through that 5-question process and then making sure you're keeping things secure and understanding the costs and other risks is an important. It's just something you're going to have to do each time you say yes to a new game, and it won't take you too long. The best idea is also to play it with the kids so you have some understanding about what it is, what its objective of the game and how it works, and what potential risks might be present there. So what I would like to do now is we'd like to try something new here. We did try this once before with our video chat apps. And we're going to ask the audience to, once again, select from the following list of games. These were the 10 that I showed previously. And we'd like you to vote on which one of these you'd like us to talk a little bit more about. And what we're going to do based on your responses is we'll probably focus and do a lightning round on the top maybe 4 or 5. I guess it depends on how much time we have to cover all of this. So go ahead and use your polling and select which of these would be of greatest interest to you. And we're going to go ahead and focus on the top 4 or 5, I think. Do a lightning round, talk a little bit about them. And I think after that, again, even while we're talking, feel free to enter any questions through the Q&A tab, and we'll be happy to answer those when we get to that point at the end of our session today. All right, let's see where we are. We're still waiting for a few people to vote, but we'll go ahead and end the polling here. So what do we have here, Mayra? Do we have as our top choices? It looks like Minecraft and Fortnite Battle Royale made the top, and really not surprised about that at all. And then we have, what do we have next here? Call of Duty.
Call of Duty.
Okay. And I would say, let's pick a 4th to get the, looks like Roblox.
Yep.
All right. I'll pick a 5th just in case we have time. So I think that 5th one would probably be
Subway Surfers.
There's a tie. Yeah, there's a tie. Grand Theft Auto and Subway Surfers. So we'll see if we have time. Okay. So let's switch over here really quickly, and we will get right to it. So. We have Fortnite first. All right. So Fortnite is not just a game, but kind of a cultural phenomenon, which really exploded on the scene a couple of years ago. And the reason why I say the cultural phenomenon too is because the game bled over into popular culture, and you would now see people during sporting events and other places doing the dances that victorious players of avatars would do within the game. So you might have seen a lot of the dabbing and a lot of the flossing, these different kind of dance moves. But the objective of Fortnite really is very simple, and that is last man standing. Your objective is, you get in battle royale mode, is you're dropped onto an island with 100 other players, and you are shooting. It is a shooting game, but there's something pretty not so violent about it. It's not gratuitous. You never see any blood. When you take someone out, they just sort of, disappear. And Fortnite is actually technically for ages 12. If you use the PEGI system, it's considered teen under the ESRB standards. There are quite a number of people, so understand you are playing against other people you might not know. You can also team up with people you do know, and I think on average about 78 million people are playing it on any given month. So the good thing about Fortnite too is that it's timed. Once you reach that objective, and I think people say it's anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes to a game, you're done, and then on to the next game. I think, Mayra, the one thing about Fortnite though is the currency is V-Bucks. I think is the currency you can use. And so my understanding is there are websites that are trying to show you that V-Bucks, you can buy more V-Bucks, get a really good deal on V-Bucks. Is that something we should be encouraging people or discouraging people to be tempted to buy?
I would say if you haven't bought there before, don't take the chance. Because it could be stolen, it could not be real, they could just be looking to take your money.
Okay. Yeah, and the other thing is because it is social, there is a lot of chattering going back and forth. And so for those of you who have kids that might be Fortnite fans, there's a pro and con to encouraging a headset, playing with the headset, because boy, those kids can jabber, talk a lot. It gets kind of noisy. So the plus side of using headphones is you don't have to listen to it. You just hear your own child. The downside of it is that I think the language among the people playing can kind of go downhill pretty fast. So there are times where I've encouraged no headphones because I want to be able to hear the conversations, and I want the other children to know I'm there, I'm somewhere around, even if I just pop in once in a while, to encourage them to really watch the language a little bit. So that's my advice on Fortnite. I've tried it myself. I don't know, Mayra, if you've ever played Fortnite, but it's sort of, I can understand the appeal, but it's not for me. Okay, our next one I think was, what was our next one? Was Minecraft? Is that right? Yeah, I think yes. Minecraft was our second. Yes. And again, this is one that's just hugely, hugely popular, I would say, even among adults. For those of you who are, I think Game of Thrones fans out there, there were people who didn't even know each other collaborating on rebuilding Westeros and Easteros simulations on Minecraft. And I guess that's a better use of using screen time than first-person shooter games. But there's really no objective of this game other than to exist in this world and to, look for materials and to build things. Kids can be encouraged to build anything that their imagination, just like Legos, but except that you're doing it on screen. There's a survival mode where you are trying to avoid getting killed by, zombies or things like this. But for younger kids, I highly recommend using not the survivor mode. I think it's just the mode where they can build. And so ESRB has this listed as 10 plus is the age. The PEGI system has it at 7, so it's pretty much lower age than some of the other games we have on the list. With 126 million users, though, understand that there might be a situation where your kids can connect with others while they're playing. And the other thing to be mindful of with regards to time, it doesn't end. There's no timer to this. So this really could go on and on and on as long as you allow the child to play. So make sure that you are having that 24-hour conversation with your kids before you let them onto Minecraft. Help them think about gaming with this service in a healthy way, in a way that fits in their day, that doesn't get in the way of other things that might be better uses of their time. Mayra, do you play Minecraft? Have you ever?
No, actually, I don't. I've played it before a couple years ago, but I'm not a big gamer these days. I play more mostly Xbox, like
You're
Madden
an
games
Xbox, yeah.
and yeah, and Assassin's Creed.
Oh, that's an interesting one we didn't cover today, actually. I think the next one we had on our list was Call of Duty. Is that right?
Yeah.
Call of Duty. All right. You know what's interesting about this one is that basically Call of Duty is it's listed at a much higher age, and that's largely because of the content and the way in which you achieve your end. It's very gratuitous in terms of violence, and I don't recommend this for kids, younger kids. ESRB has it listed as mature, and the PEGI system has it listed at 18. So really think twice. Having said that, I do know there's a lot of tweens still playing games like this. I think there is a mode of this, which you're seeing in front of you, in response to the popularity of Fortnite and also Apex Legends. It's a model called, like, what do you call this? Battle Royale. So instead of just fighting and forever, the Warzone mode is a lot like the Battle Royales, where your objective is to just survive and be the last person standing. And so they actually launched this in response to the popularity of the other two games, which do the same thing. Mayra, I know you said you don't play this in particular, but they too have a idea of buying currency, the COD points, or battle passes that I guess allow you to buy really more cosmetic things. I don't think it really helps you necessarily perform better, but it's more for maybe a fancier gun or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you've seen any risks with buying these points in places maybe where we shouldn't be.
It's just the same like all the others. You should just always try to buy it from the authorized places through the game app, but try not to buy it somewhere else that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And if it's
absolutely.
too good to be true on the pricing, if you're getting a huge discount, something's off. Something's wrong.
Right. Absolutely. So that's a little bit about Call of Duty. I think the next one we had on our list was Roblox. And this is another one that it's a little bit younger than some of the other ones, but has just become hugely popular among especially younger children. And I think a couple of things about Roblox too, that unlike the other games that we're talking about, Roblox itself is a community. It's a gaming community. And so once you join Roblox, you can either play games that other people have created, or you can create them. And there are many, 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 many options to choose from. The characters look a lot like what you're seeing here on the screen. It's very reminiscent of Lego figures, the Lego movies, and also the Lego games on other consoles like Lego Marvel Avengers, Lego Star Wars, and so on. But because there's lots of people there, of course it comes with all of those risks. You could be, because anyone can create, you could be fooled into playing something that maybe is not in your best interest, that could be a scam, just asking for you to spend money on it or whatever it is. And the currency within Roblox is called Robux. So everybody, it seems like all these games have their version of a currency. I think the one thing to be careful of with Roblox, and this is a lot like Snapchat and Snap Streaks, and it is game developers and software developers' tendency to make games or apps that keep you there, keep you either coming back or keep you playing for as long as possible. And so Roblox does like to encourage the login streak so that if you go in every day, you're rewarded for that. And it's, again, similar to Snapchat streaks, where you're rewarded for, some kind of social currency to keep on posting and posting and posting. And so that's something I think for any parents who have not allowed Roblox yet for their kids to be mindful of. ESRB does list this at 10, age 10 plus. And Peggy does list this at 7. As you can see, it looks very, very benign. I am playing this bee game where I'm keeper of bees and trying to make honey, and the more honey or more things I make, the more special kinds of bees. But I'm also encouraged to spend real money, Robux, if I want very rare bees. So you can see very quickly how a child might be asking for more time, asking for more money to embellish their experience, to raise their profile, and to feel somewhat accomplished within the game. And it's really important that parents are very actively managing the cost and also the time, because there's no end. You can just play and play and play. It's not timed at all. And I think, and Mayra, this is probably one that you're not as familiar with necessarily, but it turns out there are, again, wherever there's currency, there are, potentially fake or scam ways to buy Robux. So I think I'd love to see someday in your research, maybe if you're seeing a rise in these games for younger kids, more and more ways that you could be fooled to buy Robux. Maybe it's in phishing, spam, like you said, chat rooms, and so on.
Yeah.
Because I think some of these gamers who develop in Roblox make a lot of money right now.
They do.
Yeah, and again, if gaming is now all of a sudden a very lucrative career, why not? Why not? Why wouldn't I do that? Okay. I think, I don't know if we're coming to the end of the time here, and I think we'll probably stop here with our lightning round. We'd love to be able to do more of these, but what we're going to actually do is develop a place on internetsafety.trendmicro.com where we're going to post these overviews that we just went through, and you will see just the factual information that I was sharing with you today. But I want to thank, there's some researchers behind the scenes also, Trend employees who helped us build the profiles of each of these games and things to be mindful of. So with that, I'd like to actually ask anyone, if you have questions, if you go ahead and put them in the Q&A right now. It looks like we have quite a few here. So let's see, where should we start? We have quite a few questions here. Let's see, I didn't understand how people can get personal information under that section around PII, the personally identifiable information. So Mayra, maybe you could expand a little bit upon that question. How could my personal information be at risk from a cyber criminal?
So this would be if the game developer website has a data breach, and the cyber criminal now has all the account information, and they could use this for their personal use, to sell it, or they could just start buying things and using your credit card and other options. They could use your credit card and sell you just the credit card portion of your account to other users. Sometimes they're sold in bulk, sometimes they're sold individually to others.
Yeah, and so I think it's, in that case though, even if we put security software on our own system, there's nothing we can do if they've hacked the game developer. Exactly. Is that right?
But if it comes to phishing, then an antivirus might be able to stop that.
Okay, so if you get a suspicious email and you click on it, you'd be blocked from going to whatever link that was, right? Or if there's an attachment or something, right? Yeah. So yeah, they're going to try every way, every possible way where money is involved to trick you or your kids into getting a hold of it. Here's a question around, does Trend Micro protect everything that we discussed from these hackers? And I think that specifically, Mayra, around the hack, the cheats, then the potential malicious, the malware, and I think the third was I forget the third one we were
And
talking about.
we can protect against the malware, but we won't be able to protect against the data breach.
The data breach, right. Now,
Yeah.
if the gaming company has our product, I guess, on their servers, then I guess we're protecting that too.
Yes.
So far be it from us to ask you to pressure the gaming companies to use Trev Micro products, but feel free if you'd like to do that. We certainly could do it if these companies were interested. Okay.
And if they download like an aimbot and it has a malware that we already have detected, then we should be able to stop it from being installed on the computer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, and I think there was one other question here. I don't know if you, again, if there are other questions, please go ahead and ask them here. Is there anything harmful hacker-wise with regard to Minecraft? So we talked about spending too much time on it as being an issue and a risk, but is there any other reason to be worried about Minecraft? So I'll comment on this, and Mayra, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. Again, if you are receiving information of ways that you can do other things on the game and spend money, real money to do that, I think you always have, there's always a risk. There's always a risk because it could not actually be from the legitimate game developer who's saying, here's a special, new tool or something you could buy to use on Minecraft. I think the other risks I would say are not related to money, and that is, I think it's more around the other people you're gaming with. The two modes that you can play in, I don't recommend for much younger kids, because even though these zombies in there are just, they're very Lego looking, some young children could find them disturbing just because, the environment starts to get dark, the sun is setting, and then zombies are coming out. And depending on your child's readiness for that and their age, that's another area where to most kids it's probably fine, but to some kids it could be disturbing. Okay, let's see. I think, is there anything, here's another question about Fortnite. I think we'll take this. Is there anything harmful hacker-wise on Fortnite in particular? So Mayra, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this one. Fortnite does require you to buy V-Bucks if you want new weapons, new clothing. I think you can even change your hair, all these different ways that you can look.
The different skins.
Yes.
For this, it would be if someone tries to buy a skin somewhere else for their account. So it could be, like I mentioned before, not to trust it, because you don't know if it's real or not, or if you're going to be taken advantage of. But in the game, no, not directly in the game. It would have to come from an outside source. So the aimbots that may have malware, or the phishing email, they may have like ransomware on it, but not in the game.
I will say around all social games, but especially Fortnite, because Apex Legends allows you to play without having to have voice contact. You can just play in silent mode. It doesn't have anything to do with hackers, but in Fortnite, there has been very high incidences of bullying. And this was back in the day where kids were back in school, so they'd play online, and if someone was what they call noob, N-O-O-B, which is a person very new to a game, and they just didn't know what they were doing, other kids could gang up on them, and then it spilled out into the school grounds where they would make fun of them and make them feel badly. And so kids would start begging their parents, I need more V-Bucks so I can improve my ability to perform, because I don't like getting bullied about me being a noob. I've seen the flip happen, by the way, too, where kids will actually say, protect the noob. They will surround a new player and really make sure that they're okay. And so I think we just need to talk to our kids about, if you're going to be on there, play fair, don't buy the cheats, and play nice. It's the same way that we say when they're not on the screens as well. I think with that, we're going to close it here. And for any questions that we didn't get to, we will collect those and we will do our best to provide answers to those. I do want to encourage everybody to take a look at our tips again, which you will find on internetsafety.trendmicro.com. After today's call, we'll actually be posting the paper that Mayra and Fernando did as well, the research they did around cybercrime and gaming. That will be posted to the same place. And for all of our past sessions, we've had 5 previously, now we've got 4 coming up, but they've all been recorded and there are resources for each of them, and you can see those sessions here in front of you. So join us next Wednesday and every Wednesday through the end of June. Next week, we're going to continue the gaming conversation, and we're actually having a guest from the Microsoft Xbox team. And I believe that they've been piloting some new safety features. I'd be very interested to hear from Jill McClanahan about this. We hope you'll join us. Also, after today's call, you'll be prompted to complete a very, very short survey. And if you choose to enter your email address, please do so, because you may be a winner of a 1-year subscription to Trend Micro Maximum Security, which will secure up to 5 devices in your home. So I thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you so much, Mayra, for being part of today's session, and really look forward to working with you and hearing more about the great research you're doing for Trend. I certainly hope you'll join us again in the future.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, everybody. And again, please complete the surveys, enter your email if you're willing to do that, and we will see you next Wednesday.